Most founders sound exactly like the competition. If you want to be competitive in a crowded market, you can't just be better, you have to be different. I'm your host, Cameron Olds.
And I'm Dallin Merrill, and we're here to talk about how you can avoid being mistaken for your competition, differentiate your brand, and ultimately create a lasting competitive advantage for yourself in the market.
Welcome to Differentiate or Die. This episode of Differentiate or Die is brought to you by MessageOS. And by brought to you by, we mean written by.
If your team describes your product 10 different ways, your product is no longer differentiated. It's confusing, and so are your customers.
MessageOS helps big teams keep every sales deck, social caption, and support reply on message and on brand.
Clear, consistent, differentiated. Every time someone talks about you.
See how it works at protagonistcomms.co. Daryl Merrill, how are we doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. I am particularly excited about this episode today because we have a very special guest who I met a few months ago. His name is Marty. Marty, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. We're way excited too. So a little bit of a different format today because Marty is the CEO and founder, correct? Co-founder
Yep.
of Agree.com. So we're doing Agree.com versus DocuSign. Before we jump into that, Marty, I wanted you to give, just like briefly introduce yourself, because before you were at Agree.com, you've been a part of like, I want to say several dozen other different cool things, cool projects, cool companies, and you have a really, really cool career that you told me about over dinner one time. So would you mind just briefly introducing yourself and your background?
Yeah. And my birthday was yesterday, so I just turned 44. So I've done a lot, but it's because I'm old, and so I've got like 22 years behind me.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. But I realized I started my career same year that DocuSign was started. So my career is as
No
old
way.
as DocuSign, which is wild. I just clicked for me. I'm going to start using that in marketing messaging. Long time. Comp sci undergrad, fell in love with design, was one of those rare people that could design and code in the early 2000s, and that kind of kickstarted my career. And that jumped me into the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I had a few startups in the past, sold one to Twitter, sold one to Eventbrite, sold one to Brex. We still have a venture capital firm, a venture fund that invests in early stage startups. And then done a few fun things in between that, like working at the White House. But back in the founder game with Agree.com, and really it's just, over these last 22 years, you get these special moments in internet history where it's like, if you can be there at the inception of it, like it's truly special. And so for me, going from like the late 90s to early 2000s when, it's not the introduction of the internet, but it is the mass adoption of the internet where like,
Right.
because we had America Online, but America legit, like everyone had an email address. Everybody was online every day. That was a special moment. The introduction of the iPhone and building like around the SDK for that app store was a special moment. The introduction of Twitter and social media was a special moment. And then now, obviously, we're in this like AI, everything's AI and everyone's freaking out. It's like, we've done this before. When everything was the internet, everyone was freaking out. When everything was mobile first, everyone was freaking out. It's like, we've gone through this before. This time it does feel different. It does feel like it's moving faster, but it's just an exciting time to build.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. I mean, I wasn't born when DocuSign was started. So this is definitely my first rodeo through it. I think Daryl's too. Can you explain, so I want to get a sense of the product category you guys are in, which is on like e-signatures, correct?
So it's actually not, which is so fun because, I mean, we pick on DocuSign all the time, but the way, because I guess the category you're in is how you make money. We make money on the payment side. And so we'll get into this when we do DocuSign versus Agree, but e-signature is for us, it's a wedge. It's a competitive wedge. And it's specifically, and I know I'm kind of jumping here a little bit, but
no, go ahead.
We want, everything's AI now, but like what fuels AI? Data. Right. And so what is the competitive nature in a payments play? Payment data often originates in a contract. At the end of a signature, someone has to pay someone money. And so we want e-signature because we want the contract. I want the contract because I want the contract data. Contract data is just another synonym for payment data. And if you have more payment data makes you stronger on the payment side is sort of the big picture.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. So you could have gone like the completely other route of like, hey, we're a payment system, but we also do e-signatures. But you kind of flip the messaging there. Like we do e-signatures, but we do the payments on the other side.
Yeah, because it's a little, this is where like it's a cheat and a little bit of like, I think while we'll have the DocuSign conversation is if I go to you and be like, hey, I'm a better Stripe, your instinct is, bullshit. Like Stripe's great. Mm-hmm. Stripe's the best. Like Stripe can do no wrong. But if I say, hey, raise your hand if you hate DocuSign, hands just go up like who doesn't? So it's easier to penetrate the market going the other way. And we realized that at the end of the day, it really the contract. So two things hit us really early on when we were planning all of this. And one was that the number one person who sends a legal document for signature in a company is not a lawyer. It's a sales rep, and that's a sales contract. And we realized that most companies, especially B2B companies, move the majority of their revenue through contracts. So if you owned the contract, that the contract could be the source of truth to revenue. It tells us everything. And we thought, oh, well, all of these accounting and bookkeeping and fintechs, like they're all trying to understand and forecast revenue, but they're doing it after the fact. They're doing it way later. And we could do it at its origin. That would be super powerful.
So the whole point of the show is like, hey, how are you different? What's the differentiated factor between you and every other player that's in the market? And so, I mean, what you just explained is actually really interesting because, we set this up as DocuSign versus Agree.com. And like even on that, like you're entirely differentiated. Like if you were just going to go compete with the e-signature market, then like that's you're already way differentiated there. But you're also playing in the payments game, and you're also differentiated there. So I mean, it's such an interesting use case.
And then what we wanted was just to go after DocuSign because there was another one. Is not only does everyone just kind of get a visceral reaction with them, they're in this camp of like Jira and Microsoft Teams and the IRS. Where it's like, you don't know why you dislike them, but you dislike them. Well, we know why we don't like Ticketmaster. But with DocuSign, they can't do payments. Like it's just not in their DNA. They'll never be, a facilitator of money movement. So we knew that this is one where I never have to answer the question, like, what if Google does this? What if DocuSign does it? They'll never do it. I'd be more scared of like what happens if Stripe releases an e-signature API, to your earlier point. What if payments does e-signature? It's a harder thing, and we can get into that too. But for us, it was like, I always thought it was weird on the DocuSign side where I would always see this data about like the rental market. So if you want to rent, a one-bedroom apartment here in Manhattan, what is the average cost of a one-bedroom in, say, the financial district? And there'd be all these sources they'd cite, but none of them were ever DocuSign. And that's weird to me because every one of those leases, or I'd say 90% of them, were signed on DocuSign. So DocuSign, in theory, should know as of like the last 30 seconds what the average rental price was in any zip code and anywhere in the country, but they don't. And then we're like, well, why don't they? It's like, they don't know what's in the document you uploaded. They don't scan it. They don't parse it. And we're not even talking about AI. We're just talking, they missed big data. Like they missed OCR. They're not only behind on AI, they're just decades and a half behind technology. It's like, okay, there's a huge opportunity here. And the one thing that won't beat us is the largest incumbent catching up. Now it's, hey, what if other payment providers or what if other account receivable players or revenue recovery players get hip and say, e-signature is not that hard. And so the person I'm most terrified for is DocuSign. So I think everyone's just going to look around and be like, we're all going to do e-signature now.
Yeah, that's way scarier. Yeah. Having this conversation, I didn't think about that beforehand, but that's definitely your bigger competition right there.
Oh, for sure. That's what keeps me up at night.
But I mean, I keep up with you on LinkedIn, and I feel like I've also seen you create or try to create or widen your moat even between you and Stripe and these online payment people? Like, can you talk to me about, like, that you have these competitors who maybe one day might get wise and the jig might be up, and they might start chasing you. Like, as a founder and as someone who's actively building something, what's like your mentality? What questions do you ask yourself when you're trying to widen your competitive moat and keep your advantage?
Yeah, I think through, the true answer to who's going to, well, they say most startups don't die of homicide, they die of suicide. So you end up doing it to yourself. But if I think, who's going to come for me, it's not going to be one of these larger startups or bigger incumbents. It's just going to be another version of us, four dudes in the quintessential startup garage that are going to move really fast, break things. I'm scared of the startup that hasn't been founded yet. That's the real answer. That'll probably always be true for the next decade. But for the other folks, I think through more as they grow, like Stripe grows. It's not really like a developer tool like it used to be. It's this like enterprise, payments offering. So they're leaving a bunch of people behind. We're seeing people getting fed up with the 2.9 and 30. They kind of defined it, but now it's like there's so many cheaper alternatives out there. And then when I look at Stripe released an invoicing product, and it's a great product, but it's like an upmarket product. And so there's this whole crop of users that just feel like, I know the brand and I love the brand, but like they're not for me anymore. And so that's an opportunity for us to come and kind of sweep that up. Same with DocuSign. Most people don't know this, but I think it's like 85% of e-signatures on DocuSign are never done on DocuSign.com. It's the API. It's the API integrated into a Fortune 500, 100 company. So you just never know that it was a DocuSign. And that means that DocuSign leaves behind this like long tail of users. And so that's why if you go on Twitter and you search like DocuSign sucks, like a lot of people like they can't get in contact with support and nothing works. And you're like, well, how can DocuSign have 7,000 people and this really bad user experience? It's because, well, the user experience you're using isn't the priority for them. And so that just opens up this opportunity for us. And I think what'll end up being our demise is you guys will interview somebody 15 years from now, and they're going to be saying how Agree has grown so far up market and so successful that it's lost touch with this long tail, and there's an opportunity there, right? And we're going to rinse and repeat all over again.
Would you just say that's the eternal cycle of a startup? If this thing is successful, we're going to IPO and we're going to have, over 1,000 employees. It's mostly going to be sales led. We're going to go up market. We're going to expand internationally. And then everyone who loved and adored us in the beginning, you can't get anyone on support to answer their phone call. And it'll be like they're the lead. Right now, they're the most important person. And that's so unfortunate. And that means that when that world happens, like, I won't be associated with the company anymore. I'm sure someone will push me out way before then because I'll have gotten up and yelled and argued how like, this is what kills you. And they're going to be like, you're wrong. And then the founder, leaves. And so everyone hates the company you started, but it's like, well, I'm not there because I hate what happened to it also. And that just seems like it's the inevitable cycle.
Is that the end goal then, is to IPO or do you want to sell to someone like Stripe?
No, I'm always a big fan of if you can be a part of something bigger at an integral point in time, like you should take that into serious consideration. So, Stripe, Gong, some of these other really interesting companies that are like in their pre-IPO phases, if you could be a part of their path to getting to the next stage, like I think that's sometimes a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But I think the true answer is, we know what the path is to IPO. It's just a mathematical equation to get there. It's number of customers sort of in the pipeline, number of customers converted over a certain period of time. We're going to hit 100 to 200 million in annual revenue, and then we're ready for IPO. And it's just speed of execution, and because we know we have the product there. Because the one great thing about Agree, I don't have to convince anyone that they need this product. Every company that we sell to, they already pay someone for e-signature, they already pay someone for invoicing, and they already pay someone their payment processing fee. That already exists. All I'm saying is, hey, stop paying for e-signature, stop paying for invoicing, and then pay what you pay Stripe now, but like put it all together, make it a better experience, and your team will love you more. So it's a little bit of an easier sell. I just have to do that, a few thousand times over, and then off to the IPO time.
Wow.
No pressure.
That's awesome.
So if we were, okay, so come with me here for a minute, but if we were, I know that's not the case, but if we were still competing in the e-signature space, like the obvious differentiating factor there would be that like you do the whole product for free because you don't make your money. You don't make your money on that. Yeah.
But there's a lot of, but that's not enough, I found. I mean, honestly, it's funny too. It's not even sometimes it's a deterrent. You tell somebody that what they're used to paying DocuSign for, I'm going to give it to you for free. It's like, whoa. I'm not interested. Like, why for free? It's like, are you fighting? It's free. Like, just take it. Like, no, because, hey, are you selling my data? Like, am I, if it's free, I'm the product. So it's like they really want to understand. But when we explain to them where we make the money, they're like, oh. And then some of them like to get clever where they're like, well, if I don't use you for invoicing, it's like they pulled one over on us. I can get it for free and you don't make any money. I was like, fine. Give someone, you're going to pay someone else that money anyway. Like you can either give it to us or give it to someone else. Like if you want to use e-signature for free, that's fine. So it is still pretty tough to compete against DocuSign because it's a brand name. It's just at the end of a deal, hey, just send me the DocuSign. So it's kind of become like a noun and a verb, and so and it's the dominant brand, and so no one's ever heard of an Agree. So we have to get out there. But what's nice about our product is that it is a nicer, more modern experience, and when you use it to send to your customer, they also have a really great experience. And so a third of our users come to us because they started as signers. Because they said, hey, that was a good experience. And so our users become a distribution engine for us. So we love the e-signature product, and it's critically important to our own growth and success because it is how we get the majority of our users in the platform. And then what we look for is when you send a contract, we look for something called payment intent. Is in the terms of that contract, is someone supposed to pay someone money? If so, we start re-engaging you, like, hey, did you know we do invoicing, and trying to move you over to the invoicing side.
Because you also, unlike DocuSign, you're also parsing all of the contract, the contents of the contract, so you understand what's being said, and not what's being said. It's not like you're spying on them, but you understand like what you just said, intent. So that's a signal that you can leverage, right?
Yep. And then what we're really looking for, that again, it's for your benefit only, is it's one, we want to know if there's payment intent, because should there not be an invoice associated with this? And if yes, binary. Why don't we make that invoice for you, and why don't we make it as effortless as possible? Because speed to signature is critical. You don't need e-signature. You and I could just print out something on a printer, sign it with a pen, and mail it to each other, but it takes forever. We do the same thing with invoicing today. You take your executed contract, you send it over to someone in finance, they open up the PDF, they open up their invoice tool, they manually type it in, they manually create a PDF, they manually email it to somebody, and then when 4 weeks has come by, they manually follow up with them. Like, it's totally inefficient. What if we just already knew that in the sales contract it was for $30,000. We pulled $30,000, and the invoice was generated, and $30,000 was there, and it says net 45, so the due date's in 45 days, and all you have to do is hit send. Like, that would be magical. And then what if on the 46th day, we got an email reminding you, and then what if when you're 30 days past due, we could actually be more context aware and reference the terms of the contract. Hey, Cameron, you signed this legal agreement on this date that in section 5.1.2 says if you don't pay, this is the consequence. No invoicing tool today can do that because they don't have access to that data. They don't know what the repercussions of non-payment are.
That's cool.
So then on the payment side, which is the category you guys are playing in, the differentiating factor is like, hey, you've collapsed all of those manual steps into one, and you've made it, and you've taken it a step further because you can parse and reference the contents of the contract. You can continue after things have been sent, interacting with people should that be the need. And so that's crazy.
Yeah, and then we got little things like in our invoice, you send someone an invoice, there should be a little link on there that says, pay now, right? It takes you to a website. You can put in your credit card details or your banking information. We've probably all seen that in some experience or not. But what I thought was interesting is that Intuit, it's taken them 18 years. They just rolled that out into QuickBooks invoicing. Like the pay now button is funny to me. So that's one thing, like that helps obviously speed up payments. Yeah. I get the invoice and I can just click a button. But what's better than that is at the end of signing the contract, instead of like a little DocuSign, like you've signed check mark, what if you just went to the payment page? It's like, there's nothing more instantaneous than that. And that's something, again, QuickBooks, Stripe invoicing, nobody in the invoicing game can do that because they don't have access to the contract. They don't know the millisecond after the contract was signed, and they can't get in front of that interface. And we're the only ones right now that can do that. And that's magical. Because I mean, that's what you see in consumer all the time. You go to, I don't know, Amazon, you put something in your cart, and then you go to check out of your cart and you instantly pay for what's in your cart. Like that's just the way commerce works, but not in sales contracts, not in B2B SaaS. Like you say you're going to buy the thing, and then you wait 4 or 5 days later for someone to ask you for money, and then you've got to like figure out how to pay them. It's just super weird.
Yeah, I hate it. We hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I've seen a lot is, and something we talk a lot about on the show, is companies sometimes feel like they're too big to lose. Do you feel like, and they stop messaging, right? They stop saying why they're different, why they're, so I'm curious from your end, how do you feel like how have you seen with Agree.com, how you've tried to stay true to that? And when you then like add features, right? Because the more you add features, the more you sometimes become like other companies. So how do you walk that line of staying differentiated while still increasing your offerings?
Yeah, you know, it's a funny one on that because we just went through this. For our core user, the user that Agree was most built for is the sales team, the person that sends out those sales contracts, right? That is the number. Anyone can use Agree, NDAs, offer letters, those lease agreements. They all happen on Agree today. But like the true customer profile of who we really built this platform for was a salesperson sending a sales contract. For that person, their needs are, they need to edit the contract. They need to be able to save the contract as a template so it can be reusable. They don't get that in DocuSign today. DocuSign has no editing capabilities because they don't parse any of the data. And because they don't parse any data, they can't turn them into reusable templates. So that was, to us, super critical out of the gate. Had to build those things. Now, it turns out, for the long tail of users, they sign 1 or 2 contracts a year, if not their entire lifetime, and they don't want any of those things. And they don't like the templates and the editing, and they just want what they saw on DocuSign. And that pains me and makes me sad, but like I get it. It's what you're used to. It's what you're familiar with. They want to upload their PDF, and they just want to put little labels over. And we built this, we exhaustingly broke that paradigm of saying, hey, that's the old way and there's a new cool way. But now we recently released what we call classic mode. But for the long tail users on the free e-sig side, you can upload your PDF and it looks exactly, it's got the little label. Now we automatically place the labels for you. So there's still some cool AI in there. But it was a painful one to realize like, hey, like you can be cool, new and innovative. But at the end of the day, like intuitive and familiar wins. And DocuSign over the last 22 years defined familiar and intuitive for e-sig because they were first. And we're not going to fight that battle. We're just going to give the user exactly what they want. And so we gave them classic mode.
Mm-hmm. Classic
Interesting.
mode.
Yeah.
So do you try to, like with new features that you come out with and stuff like that, how do you make sure that you're still focused on, we're still e-signature combined with, how do you do that in your marketing and on your website?
Yeah, and that's really hard because the language that users respond to most is always on the e-signature side, just because when we can position against DocuSign, we get such an instant reaction. There's a lot of noise in the payments and invoicing side, and so it's a little harder to be like, hey, we've got amazing invoicing, because everyone has amazing invoicing. Nobody says they have amazing e-signature because there's not that many competitors in the space. There's a lot of like really small free or cheap e-sig players. Google Docs now has free e-sign in it, but they're just not great experiences. So no one really advertises there. So we stand out more. But what I really want to do is yell, top of the mountain, hey, our invoicing product's the best. Our payment processing product is the best. It's fully integrated. It's just a harder message. So we remind our team of that like we can never lose sight of how important e-signature is to us, even if it isn't how we make money, if it isn't the core KPIs that because my KPI is, well, it's revenue, but revenue is tied to amount of money moved. Amount of money moved is tied to number of invoices sent. Amount of invoices sent is tied to number of companies sending invoices. None of that has anything to do with e-signature. So it's like, if you really wanted to hit those metrics, why would you not just double down all your engineering resources on invoicing and everything invoicing? Because we don't get any of that we just have to remind our team of that all the time, that like e-signature is critically important and never lose sight of it, which means that, we spend resources building classic mode, because that long tail user, they don't do payment intent. They don't move money. We're never going to monetize them. They're always just going to be free. So we actually lose money on them. But you'd be like, well, why pander to them? Why build for them? Because it's who they send contracts to. Because so many of our users come from their customer. It makes it so worth it for us. And then, you asked earlier, like, when do you get to this point where like you're so big that you've lost sight of it? I've seen it real time. And one of the places that like really like was hard for me was when we sold a company to Eventbrite, and I saw it in their messaging, and I tried to bring it up to them many times, where if you went to their Twitter account or their Facebook account, I was like, this is actually how you speak. They only spoke to people that threw events and conferences. They never spoke to anyone that attended. And they didn't realize this, that what we realized at Agree is we live and die on the e-signature because of the customer's customer. Eventbrite lives and dies on the attendees. And like they lost sight of that at some point because they were so focused on like competing with Ticketmaster and getting these big venues and these big organizers. They wanted to look like the platform where big organizers went to throw their products. And I get that, but it means that like they stopped talking to the attendee. And then we got to a pace where people like going to Partyful and Luma, and like those are just easier places to attend events on. And you're starting to see a lot less Eventbrites, and that was a small decline over like a long period of time.
Interesting. I like how you said that you have to continuously tell your team to stay on track. I'm really curious how you do that. How do you keep your team on message?
Yeah, it's almost exactly what I said to you guys, where I have to remind them the order of operations, because the problem is we'll talk about how much money we have in the bank, what our burn is, because they'll see the investor updates, so that it's fully transparent there. But they know what my metrics are, what Marty needs to do and will in terms of the sales side, and so they'll be constantly wondering, hey, what can we do from an engineering or product side to help support you guys? And it's seemingly surface level is like invoicing, payments, and I have to bring back order of operations. It is guys, yes, revenue tied to money movement, tied to invoicing, tied to customers, tied to users that bring us the customers. So in that whole order, if we don't have users bringing us customers, we never get invoices, we never get money moved, we never get revenue. So why would I focus on 5 million ARR if I can't even get someone to send an invoice, but I can't get a customer who sends invoices, and I can't get users to get me customers? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And so when I break it down like that, like, okay, yeah. So that's why, like, right out of the gate, it was get to 10,000 users as fast as possible. It happened in I think it was 90 days, which was awesome, and now it's a little over 40,000. So now I don't look at that metric as much anymore. Now it is just number of companies on the platform who could send invoices. And my investors would be like, Marty, why are you not focused on ARR? It's like, no point. Because if I can't get companies to use me for invoicing without payments, I'll never get them to use me invoicing with payments. So let's just focus on getting the ICP in the platform and getting them active. Then we'll get them focused on sending invoices. Then we'll get them focused on payment processing, and everything gets refined along the way. The signature constantly gets better. The invoicing gets better. The payment processing gets better. And that's how I kind of look at like the priorities of it all. And then what do people need to make the experience stronger? Like, again, you'd mentioned right before we kicked off here that we're doing a big thing with HubSpot at their inbound conference in 3 weeks, because we're going to release our integrated HubSpot integration, where you'll be able to have e-signature and payments all sort of built around the HubSpot ecosystem, which will be a big deal for folks that live and die on HubSpot, which is a lot of our users. And a funny one I'll just leave on this is we got a lot of businesses who are on the Microsoft 360 suite. It's like we all live and die on Google, but like there's still a lot of people who love Microsoft. They need login with Microsoft. It's like, I don't want to ever build that for anybody because I hate Microsoft. It's like, hey, our users are Microsoft. They love Microsoft. I love our users. Let's build them login with Microsoft. So we have login with Microsoft now.
It's such a brilliant move. I mean, because you're playing in one category, but you're messaging and you've camouflaged your messaging and positioning as a wedge to cleverly get to make money where you're actually playing. It's such a brilliant strategy.
The other thing for the founders and entrepreneurs that are listening, there's a strategic reason for this too. Where selling, so who you sell into really matters. Some teams are harder than others. Like HR is really hard to sell into. Selling into school systems and governments are hard to sell into. But finance teams can be a little bit of a pain. They're very fickle about switching off platforms. They're very cost conscious as per their nature. And they don't have like new vendor conversations all the time. So the sales cycles are much slower. So what we found is, hey, instead of selling into the sales team, why don't we instead of selling into the finance team, why don't we enter into the sales team by not selling anything, giving away the product for free? So it's like, hey, just stop paying for DocuSign. Everyone wants to have that conversation. And then once the sales team falls in love with the product and they start sending agreements, and we usually wait for about like 6 executed agreements, means you've switched over. I want to start having a conversation with the CRO on the sales side of like, hey, let's not sell anything in the finance. Let's expand the use of a tool you already love into finance, right? So I'm not selling into finance, I'm expanding into finance. And now I've got a champion on the inside where it's the CRO and the CFO saying, hey, we love this tool, it works really well. I think our sales team and finance teams will be able to collaborate more efficiently because my sales team isn't taking an executed doc, throwing it into Slack for the finance team to go make an invoice and then like pinging the finance team of like, did you send the invoice? Did you send the invoice? And then the finance team isn't going back to the salesperson in Slack saying, hey, this customer never paid, go track down payment. Like neither person's job, and yet they have to do it. And the salesperson hates doing it because they look like the bad guy. It's like, what if we had a system that just did all this communication for us? But it's easier for the CRO to make that case to the CFO and then be like, oh yeah, like, how come we don't have collaborative tooling between us? That seems weird. I'm like, I know. Let's do it. So it's an easier sell. Yeah.
Last question to round out the show. And thank you again for your time.
Yeah.
But how important would you say a differentiation is, or the lack thereof is, to a founder or to a product that is trying to compete in a really difficult market?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think that differentiation is, speed of execution is everything, but differentiation, especially product differentiation, is like the most important thing. It's what I look for on the investing side. You know, I want a founder who sees a gap in the market. They see an opportunity. They see what everyone else doesn't see. And then there's usually some kind of timing and convergence of technology of like, hey, why now is the moment to go and take advantage of this and why no one else has seen it before. When those things happen, that tends to be the product that has the highest level of success. And I think the same thing is true with like branding and marketing, especially on the guerrilla marketing side. Just like go into an expo center and just like walk around the booths. Everyone's giving out some version of t-shirts and socks. Everyone's got like little Legos that you can get if you sign up for a demo. It's like, they're just kind of, everyone's got stickers. It's not bad. I love a good sticker, but like my question would be, instead of adding to the noise, like what's the one thing they're not doing? Like what is nobody doing where you could stand out? Because I think when you're young and you're early, that's all you have is to stand out, to differentiate. And so one example I'll leave you with that I'm just proud of myself is SaaStr is a big one for us. So everybody in sales goes to SaaStr every year. We sell in the sales team, so it's a good place for us to go. But 10,000 people there. The Expo Center is exactly as I described it, right? Like this conformity of swag, and it's in San Francisco and San Mateo. Most people that go are from the Bay Area, and it's at a convention center that's got free parking, so most people drive because there's not good public transportation in San Mateo. So that means in that parking lot, on any given day, there's over 2,000 cars. And I'm looking at that expo center that's super crowded, and I'm looking at that parking lot, and nobody activates the parking lot. And I'm thinking at a bare minimum, get 1,000 5x7 postcards, cost you $120 on Vistaprint, and put them on windshields, right? But go one step further. What we did is we found these air fresheners that are $100 bill air fresheners. And then so we got those, and then we stuck a sticker on the other side with our value prop. And then I put those. And so when you walk up to your car from a distance, there's a $100 bill sticking out. You're like, that's going to get your attention. And yes, some percentage of people are going to be annoyed and be like, oh, shit on my car. Like, that's going to happen. Some percentage of people are going to be like, hey, that was super clever. And then, contact you or convert. And then another percentage of people actually won't even notice. And like 3 days will go by and they'll still have something on their windshield in their car.
It'll still be there.
Yeah. But the point is, like, find that thing where like you differentiate or stand out. Just find out what nobody else is doing. But I think from a product perspective, it is mission critical. Nothing more important other than the speed of execution.
That's fun. You could totally just go to that event and do that and leave. Like,
you don't even need to buy a conference ticket. Like, the parking lot is free. Yeah. One thing I will say to anybody who loves the guerrilla stuff is, one thing I have found is if you are planning on doing something big like that, like 1,000, doing 1,000 of something, if you're just going to do like 50, like just go do it and run when security comes after you. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. But if you're going to do big like 1,000, find the cheapest sponsorship opportunity and then just pay for it, because they give you a long leash if you're an actual sponsor. Same is true with like conferences. Like if I want to go, like at SaaStr, I'm going to go around and throw my 4x7 postcards on like chairs and places where people eat lunch. I didn't pay for that placement, but I'm doing it manually, and like they kind of let me get away with it. Like they're a little annoyed, but they don't say anything because I am a sponsor. But if I wasn't a sponsor, they would throw them all away. They would escort me out of the building. They'd say mean things to me. But so that's my one trick is actually be a sponsor and then get away with, and then maximize your value. Yeah, maximize your value.
Love it. Marty, thank you so much for hopping on, sharing so much of your wisdom. Such a great conversation. We'll have to do it again sometime.